Hello, I'm Ira Pasternak with Web for Doctors, where I've been helping occupational medicine practices grow since 1999. This is the Occupational Medicine Growth Office Hours, presented with NAOHP, the National Association of Occupational Health Professionals. NAOHP offers a wide range of training, resources, and consulting for occupational medicine programs and hybrid practices that provide some level of OCMED care. One of its core training programs is the Occupational Medicine for Providers course, which covers the clinical and employer communication fundamentals that providers need to work effectively in this space. That course pairs well with the Occupational Medicine Growth cohort that Web for Doctors presents with NAOHP. The cohort focuses on the sales, marketing, outreach, and account development side of occupational medicine growth. Together, these two programs can help clinical and growth teams develop a stronger, shared understanding of how to serve employers and build lasting relationships. In today's episode, recorded July 9th, 2026, David Soslavsky and I discuss how occupational medicine practices can turn employer intelligence into growth. We look at how practices capture what their teams learn from employers, how a CRM supports that process, and how the right approach differs for a small practice versus a larger regional group or a hospital-based program. So with that, let's get into it. So I'm Ira Pasternak here with David Soslowski from Web for Doctors, and this is the evolution of the occupational medicine sales office hours that we had been doing for the last year and a half or so on NAOA or on the NAOHP's AirMeet platform. We are still collaborating with NAOHP um, uh, on these sessions. And while Larry cannot be with us today, just wanted to give a quick shout out to the National Association of Occupational Health Professionals. They have tons of resources for anyone growing an occupational medicine practice that go beyond the sales and marketing side of things that we bring to the table. So in particular, if you're on the sales and marketing side, you may be interested in our occupational medicine growth cohort. Whereas if you're more on the clinical side or need help for your people on the clinical side, the NAOHP OCMED for Providers course is something that you should check out. And we will, in the notes for this session, put some details about that. That all said, Dave and I are here today not to talk about us, but to talk about how you can turn employer intelligence into occupational medicine growth. What this is really about is helping to maximize your growth by getting the right services in front of the right prospects or clients. And the This depends a lot on kind of what your team or your growth will often depend, or ideally depend on what your team is learning about the employers in your market, and how you can turn that market intelligence into relationships that create clients that grow with you over time. The employer intelligence kind of shows up in all kinds of everyday interactions. We'll talk to Dave a little bit about that momentarily. And ultimately, we just want you to remember that if the knowledge you're gaining stays inside one person's head or different people's head, it's hard to turn that into growth. And so the CRM is going to be your primary or ideal tool to use in most cases to keep track of all of that employer insight and knowledge that you gain, and eventually turn that into the business intelligence that gets you the growth you're going after. So that all said, Dave and I have both been in sales related roles for more decades than we may want to admit. But Dave, even more specifically, early in his career, was in roles where he was using a CRM. Um, Kind of long before we started applying it in an OCMED setting. But as you've kind of over the last 15 or so years, they've gotten to work with dozens of urgent care and OCMED practices um, to help grow their occupational medicine. Where do you usually find that they are at with regard to their CRM usage and overall employer relationship tracking?
That's a good question because it's kind of a little bit all over the map. You definitely, with smaller practices, you usually don't have a CRM. I mean, I've talked to so many account executives that are using spreadsheets. They'll use Outlook, their calendar. Some people even use a notebook. Some people say it's all I keep everything in my head. I talked to one person who showed me a bulletin board of sticky notes that she moved to various positions as to like almost like a pipeline with notes about the clients. Um, they're all, I mean, they're all effective to some degree, but they're also very limiting as well. And the challenge with that is that if you were that person were to leave, a lot of that knowledge goes with them because it's just it isn't easy to take that and have someone take it over. We do see. I've talked to a lot of healthcare systems. They've acquired Salesforce licenses, and it's. I've yet to see, and I would love to. If anyone's out there, please email me that's using Salesforce to you feel like you're using it to its fullest potential within your ACMED organization, but it's just the adoption is often inconsistent. And just like who's using it and what information is being shared, because you know having software is really different from having a working relationship management process.
For sure. I think that last word you said there, process, is the key, and it's not just something that can what you run into problems when knowledge kind of lives inside one single person's head and isn't captured. And even if you do have a CRM, if one person's using it and other people aren't, then you're only capturing part of the story. But what do you see as kind of Dave the biggest issues that happen when information isn't captured in some kind of a shared database, whether it's a CRM or just some other system?
Well, the first thing that happens is that the follow up is inconsistent, and that's one of the biggest challenges. Is that in um, in any sales, it's 80% of it is being there, is following up when you say you're going to, or the client or prospect asks you to. It's amazing that so few people can do that. And a lot of that is CRM makes that so much easier because you're going to get a pop up that's going to give you a warning that okay, you have this call. You told somebody you would call them back in an hour. Being that it happens and it's right in your face. Um, and so that's one of the things. And then information. I mean, so what happens on a call is can be so valuable because when a client's expressing their needs, their concerns, their pain points, and so if that's all documented, if somebody else were to come and take over, or somebody else internally were to talk to somebody from that account, or another sales rep were to take it over, they can say, "Oh, these are the most important things for to you," as opposed to starting over and saying, "Okay, let's just start from scratch." Consider it the same thing as like if you were to when you if you were to come in and see a physician and then they recommend you see somebody else in the same practice and that person starts doing all the same questions all over again. It's very similar and very frustrating. And also, it's just obviously with this, opportunities get missed because no one sees the full account picture. And, it's, as I mentioned, like it's just when somebody leaves or changes roles, the handoff is really weak. And it just frustrates people.
Sure. Um, and I mean, it's really the difference between having an asset that goes beyond a single person, and having, again, information trapped in one person's head that leaves when they do. Um, the So I guess just to get a little more granular there, who in an urgent care or occupational medicine practice should typically be contributing to the employer relationship information besides the sales staff?
Well, right. Obviously, the account managers are the obvious part of this. It should be, this is, and ideally, the CRM would be the first thing that you'd open every day, even before even before your email. I mean, that would be like the opening the CRM, and that shows you. It'll show you everything for your whole day. Here's my task. Here's my meetings. Here's the phone calls. That's ideal. Um, you would want any leadership to have that, be able to see that information so that they know what's going on with the clients, and also they're able to, depending on the depth of the CRM that you're working with, they would be able to run reports and be able to look at sales pipelines and be able to forecast revenue. But even with without getting into details on different CRMs, even in the most simplest of CRMs, you could create a pipeline with just tiles and show kind of like what accounts are moving through what phases.
So you would say it's kind of like there that the sales reps are the ones, or the account managers are the ones that should probably start there every morning, and
Yeah,
be there throughout the day. The leadership may not need to be there every day if they're not
no,
part of the actual kind of growth process, but they do need to. That it is where they can go for dashboards and reports, and keep and managing the growth process.
exactly. And this is the most ideal. I was thinking about this a lot before the call. Is that the front desk and operations staff that may hear issues and frustrations or anything useful about an account, especially when you have multiple locations. And we all know that um, people, if someone's frustrated, we know that they might call into the center where they sent somebody. They couldn't get their rep on the phone. They didn't leave a voicemail. They might call into the center and they talk to the person at the front desk, and now that person may take a message and tell the account manager to give this person a call. Instead, if everybody's utilizing the CRM, that information could get into the CRM, and the CRM would be able to tell the account rep, take a look at this immediately. They'd get ideally in a good system, they'd have a pop up. It's like, boom, this is a crisis. Take a look at this now, and they'd have all that information. And then when you call, when the account manager calls, they'd just be like, oh, I heard from the front desk person at our location and blah 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 that this all happened, and let's talk about it. And that looks just so much more professional than to say, oh, I heard there's an emergency. Why don't you tell me what happened?
Hmm.
And then they have to tell the entire story again. Um, the other the other users would be any kind of clinical or administrative leaders that may also interact with your DERs and HR, safety, or other employer contacts. I mean, wouldn't it be? I would think if clinical person, like a physician, talk to one of my clients, I would love to have that documented
Mhm.
immediately, because that's such great information.
For sure. With, I guess, kind of the caveat that we all have lots of systems that we need
I,
to learn and use, and so for some of these people that are maybe on the fringe where they may not be in there every day, but occasionally they get info that needs to go into the CRM. Ideally, there just needs to be workflow. You just need to have workflows, really. So if you and you may be able to connect your CRM to other tools, that makes it easier. So if you use Slack or a project management tool, you can often integrate those. But
right.
either way, you just need, even if the workflow is simply that when there is Achmed intelligence essentially that comes in through the front desk, then they know which rep they send that information to via Slack or email or however they get it to them, so that the rep can actually know it and get it into the CRM. But the I think beyond any one technology, what's important is the human systems that we're trying to tie together here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I do realize that is, in any kind of Ahmed situation, that there's, so much different software, and asking everybody to learn every one is would be challenging. And I was right, because if you had even if you had there was a dedicated person that was taking information from Slack and putting that into the CRM on a regular basis, you could even do that. I mean, at least the information would get there.
Sure, exactly. Um, So now some of these challenges are going to be a little different depending on the size of an organization that you are working with. And so the kind of what do you see different with regard to a CRM adoption or just usage when you're dealing with say a one or two location urgent care practice versus a multi-location regional group or a hospital system?
Well, I mean, it's really all the same. I mean, in terms of starting it out, if you're starting from scratch, I mean, obviously, smaller practices should start with simplicity. But even if you're starting from a larger organization, I mean, don't you're not going to end up with like the sort of the dream scenario I painted before. You're not going to end up there right away. So um, definitely start with you with a set an account manager, using it for um, taking notes on meetings, setting up tasks, using that as a calendar. Start there. And I mean, really, you can start with, and you could have just any kind of a tool where everything is in one place. I mean, I think that's the most important thing, is that in contacts, notes, task reminders, and follow up, they need to just be in one place, so that it's not, okay, I've found this person's info on the spreadsheet, and then I'm going to go to my then I'm going to go to my Google Calendar or Outlook and set up a meeting, and then then send this person an email, and now I've got to go find the email that I sent last week to refresh my memory. Like, it's that makes things that's how things get missed. You can Any kind of a decent CRM would be able to have the email be saved in there, so that everything is all in one spot. Larger organizations, like, as this develops, would need more structures. They'll have to have different users, different roles. You want to have create reporting systems, different pipelines, handoffs, leadership visibility. I mean, but bigger systems, is the warning would be, like, do not automatically create better adoption. Sometimes it's even tougher. So it's, you have to kind of have that buy-in each step that you go. Don't try to create Rome in a day. Um, Kind of set yourself with goals for. I would set goals for adopting, and if you work with um, a like if you were to work with one of the larger CRMs. They'll might be able to help you roll that out. Obviously, that's something we could help with, one way or another. There's definitely tools on how to do that.
For sure. And I mean, the nice thing is these days is that if you the actually working on a article or a post about this, but we're all overwhelmed by technology these days, and I mean AI has only accelerated that. But if you learn to use AI to learn new things, it's an amazing tool to help you synthesize and understand stuff. And so there's more tools than ever to learn the various things out there that we need to do. So a lot of it is just committing and then just putting in the reps, putting in the practice, study, looking for tutorials, asking Chat GPT, but just do it and just using it and not overthinking it if you're small, but just start documenting. Something is better than nothing. And as you grow, add structure as your organization gets larger and more complex. You'll need more structure on the software side so that you keep things organized.
Yeah, I mean that's precisely that's where I am. I mean, like Ira's an expert. I would say, is probably knows AI better than anyone I know, and I'm really still a novice on it. And I'm forcing myself to use it and figuring it out. And I mean, I just had to do the same thing with the CRM in the oh my gosh, I guess it was the first used one in the mid '90s. That was in a it lived on a server
Hmm.
in a room, and that server would crash at least once a week.
Yeah, we've certainly come a long way since then. Although I was up at 7 o'clock this morning dealing with what turned out to luckily be a minor server issue. So there's still going to be server issues, whether it's in a closet or in the cloud somewhere. But when you're dealing with a larger CRM, a lot of that is going to be managed. And I mean, certainly you can have outages. I mean, Google, Amazon have outages, and those lead to other outages, especially with cloud-based stuff. But in general, it's a lot easier to have reliable systems these days than it was 30 years ago. Um, Speaking of reliable systems, the wanted to just kind of close this discussion for today with a little chat on choosing a CRM and or if you already got one, kind of improving what you already have. What are just some kind of general considerations? And just to um, uh, frame this a little bit more, we're not gonna go deep into detailed analysis of all the different CRM options in this discussion. That may be a topic for a follow-up session at some point. But just
Yeah.
from kind of a high level, what are the important things to consider with choosing or using a CRM?
Well, I mean, I think the point you have consistently made on calls is that the best one is the one you're actually going to use. So, but the things to consider are, who needs access, who's going to be entering information, who's going to just be viewing information. So that'll give you kind of a picture of, where what it'll help you decide what systems that you need, and also what types of information would the people that are viewing it are looking for. Um, what employer information needs to be captured. So you need to be able to have your if you're looking to really build out um, detailed employer information, you're going to need a system that be able to create your own fields and fields big enough to be able to um, capture long form. Reporting or dashboards that would help leadership. I mean, thinking about that is, what do they want to see? What are they looking for now? What's that information that they might not be getting? And being able to that ideal situation of being able to show them something with both current sales and pipelines. There's that would definitely steer you towards a couple different CRMs versus something more simple. Um, how easy is it for the team to use during normal work? That's a big thing, as we've
Probably the most
talked
important
about.
thing.
Yeah, as you talked about. I mean, if it becomes really challenging, people won't use it, and it's going to be like pulling teeth. So making it something that's really easy and everybody kind of knows their role and can get in there and do it quickly, that will be important. And then, of course, what are the HIPAA, PHI rules and internal policies? I mean, that's so what's the software look like, and then what kind of information are you comfortable putting in there, and that all has to be discussed in advance.
Sure. Especially if it's going to integrate with other systems, but even if it's
Yeah,
not, you need to consider what you need to know where to draw the lines if it's not HIPAA compliant. Even if the system technically is, you still need to know. I mean, just from a human policy, you should know whether when you're putting PHI into a system. But regardless, the HIPAA compliance is not vital, but is definitely kind of valuable, and if nothing else, can be sort of a partial failsafe. Um, yeah, and I mean, without going into the to details on a bunch of different brands. I mean, Salesforce is kind of the king of the hill and the brand that bigger organizations often use. Although it can be a little overkill, and it can also get expensive, especially when you consider that we do ideally want all the different multiple users to not have to share an account, but to be able to actually log in on their own, document things on their own. And so when we start to get entire teams using a CRM, it's nice to find things that have, if not unlimited users, then kind of tiers of users versus charging for every single one. But
right.
yeah, I mean, depending on your needs, there's all kinds of options out there beyond Salesforce, from HubSpot to Nutshell or Go High Level, and Apollo is where you can actually get leads. They have a CRM simple built in, or even CoWork Health, if you are using them as a portal, they now have a CRM built into their system. That's a great starting point. If you
That
already have something and you do already have them, then don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need an extra layer if you're already using something that has a CRM built in. That's often the best one to use.
Yeah, that's a great point,
So,
because I mean you're already, especially because if you're using it, then you're billing, your clients are all in there, and you already got a head start there. Um, and it's really easy if a prospect turns into a client to be able to have them all set up in your portal for billing and for test results.
for sure. Um, with that, that's kind of the end of our kind of organized discussion here. Dave, anything that we missed that you wanted to throw in, or has this been? I feel like this has been a pretty good intro. If someone is curious about using a CRM or why they need to use one, hopefully you've got a little bit more grounding in that now.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, just email us, Dave or
Email
Ira.
us, throw them in the comments of LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you're
Yeah.
watching this. And we will be back next month with another LinkedIn Live, since this one seemed to actually work. And we will, if you're watching this on YouTube, or regardless, keep an eye out. We will be kind of relaunching, updating, and releasing a whole bunch of new videos on our YouTube channel, including recent and some archived office hours sessions. So, thank you, Dave, for your insight on decades of CRM experience. And To everyone else, thanks for watching. If you're still with us, like or subscribe or whatever the appropriate thing is on the platform you're on, and we'll see you around next time.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching or listening to this edition of the Occupational Medicine Growth Office Hours. If you found this helpful, please share it with a colleague or a friend. And if you're on YouTube and you'd like more content like this, please hit subscribe.